Welcome back to week 15 of the UK Property Market Stat Show, where we bring you up-to-date stats on what's happening on the property market right here, right now. Today I'm joined with Ben Madden, who is big in the game, West London estate agent, runs his own estate agency, and is also a guru to an awful lot of estate agents in the UK within the Finer Country network. Thanks for joining me today, Ben.
Thank you for having me. Guru, I like it. Yeah, I'll take that.
Good stuff, good stuff. Right, so boys and girls, what's the show about for those of you that have never watched this show before? Most of the property stats that are presented to you are talks about property data that is probably months and months out of date. The Land Registry is talking about sales that were, so we're filming this in April, on sales that were agreed late summer that completed probably a couple of months ago, and now we're looking at the numbers. We're looking at the top of the funnel. We're looking at houses coming on the market, properties being reduced, sales being agreed, sales falling through. These are all important stats because it's the stuff at the top of the funnel that drives the funnel at the bottom. So you're getting an idea of exactly what's happening in the property market 6 or 9 months before anyone else. We're here to talk about week 15, which is a week ending Sunday, the 16th of April. So, Ben, shall we crack on and have a look at the top of the funnel like we always do? And thanks again for coming back. I know I got a lot of great feedback for everyone else and not yourself. Hey, banter. Oh, no, sorry, mate. No, we get some good feedback. Thank you, Barbara from Droitwich, for sending in the notes there. Right then, so we're kicking off with new instructions, okay? And we're just looking at week 15. We're going to compare the week compared to other weeks in the past, but let's just look at pure week 15, which is always, as I said, in the middle of April. I think particularly out of step there. I mean, obviously 2020, that was the awful lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, you sent me a text last night based on the data. I read it first thing this morning. I haven't seen any of this. Easter week falls at a different week every year. And so what we're looking at here is some Easter week data for 2022. But I don't know for 2023. I don't know when Easter fell in 22, 21, 19, 18. So there's definitely going to be some skewed data here, some strange numbers. Straight off the bat, I think, so let me just get real controversial. Let me just annoy a whole load of agents. What I think we're going to do today is create the ultimate excuse for a whole load of agents. I think that's what you're going to do. You're going to present them with the reason it's not going the way they want it to. A smaller chunk are going to say, it's Easter. Of course it is. So slight reduction in numbers has no impact on my business. I'm going to go away and do what I do and continue to be successful. A load are going to say, I knew it. The end of the world was coming and it's arrived and there's less activity. Those people, this is the video for you. This is going to make your year, but it's not the truth. It's just Easter. We're looking at reduced data. Oh, well, sorry, I've only seen one slide. I assume we're going to be looking at reduced data, but I would, slide one. Yeah, it looks like an Easter week to me. Wonderful. Wow. Are we getting back to some sort of seasonal traditional norm? That would be fantastic.
Oh, see what? Where it goes quiet at Christmas and then goes quiet again in the Christmas Sundays? God forbid.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to have that ability to know when there's going to be the peaks and the troughs, the highs and the lows, like we're used to, like us experienced estate agents have? That's a return to normality.
Right, bloody hell. I mean, again, anyone that's been in the estate agency the last few years, it's just been constant. Even Christmas, it was like 3 days off and it was like a little boop and then off it carried again. We could be returning back to a more normal market. Just have a quick look at the average listing price. And we're presently sitting at 437, which again, when you compare with the running average, we've been working on, let's just pull it up. Last week it was 428, the week before 420, 424. So I mean, we've not been, I think it's been majorly happening there, is it? Do you not think? Just carry on, just jump in when you.
Yeah, I mean, average listing prices, properties are worth more than they were 5 years ago. So the average listing price should have naturally increased. As we've talked about a couple of times, the more expensive properties that have perhaps been the more expensive, by that I mean the larger properties, perhaps homeowners are thinking, the downsizers are thinking, I've just been for a really tough winter. You know, cost of utilities are through the roof. Why am I sitting on 3 spare bedrooms? So those properties are coming to market. Certainly, anecdotally, we're having those conversations with homeowners locally, the bigger properties, thinking about downsizing, thinking about freeing up some cash. It's, you know, I would imagine that's happening around the country, but I can only talk about my tiny little territory.
Again, the stats are showing that. We're going to go into a little bit more detail on that. Cumulative listings year to date, and we're on 467. Now, obviously, we had COVID in 20, which meant that now that is going to go backwards for the next 8 weeks because things didn't really happen a lot during that time. I know houses did come on the market, but at lower rates. But as you can quite clearly see here, listings are at 467. You know, we're in 2019. There's a few more listings because we had the post-COVID, we had the post-Boris bounce, didn't we? No, that was bank.
No, that was the start of 2020. So yeah, Boris bounce was right at the very end of 2019. I think though what you did experience in 2019 was the perception that Brexit was handled, it was dealt with. There was a line in the sand, and then it sort of extended till the end of 2019. But that allowed more properties to come to market because the previous 3 or 4 years have been reasonably flat. So yeah, I mean this is the least exciting graph I've ever seen because it just shows reasonable numbers in line with what we've seen over the last few years. This to me is good news. Yeah, we don't want extremes. We don't want crazy. We want very similar, I think, in terms of instructions to the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Right. This is the graph that you've been waiting for. Okay. This is your listings. Okay. Your pink line. Now again, oh bloody hell, I've done a wrong screen dump. All right. Okay. Here we go. Right. So the pink line is the number of listings in 2023. The orange line is 2019. The blue line is 2018 and the yellow line is 2017. Okay, my apologies. That does work on my spreadsheet and I haven't transferred it over, so apologies there.
Excuses.
I know,
so,
but you can quite clearly see.
So Easter
and
was a week earlier on the blue line. It was a week later on the yellow, and it was a week after that on the orange. Right?
Yeah.
Boom. I'm a genius. No, I've just worked in the estate industry a little while and I understand what's going on. And that those, guys who are looking at this and saying, oh, we're looking at Easter data, that's okay. Business is going to be exactly what I determine it's going to be over the next few months. are looking at this in the same way. But there are a load that are saying this is nothing to do with Easter. It's the end of the world. Where's our 25% price crash? This is the start of it. It's the start of the end. And those guys are morons. Just going to call it out right now.
And again, what I would say to you boys and girls is this. One of the reasons why house prices crashed was it is a pure, simple economics of demand and supply. Now, between the end of 2007 and the middle of 2008, the number of properties coming on the market doubled. So everyone was dumping their houses on the market. Demand was curtailed because the banks were holding back on the lending. So you had reduced demand and increased supply. And what happens in any economic circumstance, Ben, when you have too much supply and not enough demand?
Prices drop.
So therefore, one of the important things is that if the doom-mongers out there, and again, yes, house prices that are being achieved today are not what was being achieved last year. Are house prices dropping? Yeah, they are. The price that's being achieved today versus last year is lower in many locations, not in some. Everything, there isn't just one UK property market. There are lots of, it's like a fly's eye. Could house prices continue to be lower later in the year compared to now? Quite possibly. But estate agents, you shouldn't be worried about house prices. Your success is not based on house prices. It's based on getting the bloody houses on the market and selling the bloody things. I mean, let's just quickly, sorry, I'll get back off my soapbox. Again, if this was going up to 50 or 60,000 up here, that's when we need to start worrying. Now, again, there's some thoughts there that there's these people coming off fixed rate mortgages and they're going to be finding it hard work. Well, yes. I mean, I don't know about you, Ben, but have you found people coming to you coming off fixed rates and basically selling because they can't afford the mortgage?
So I guess it's for context, my business is Finding Country, which is sort of the top end of the market, and so the buyer and seller demographic is not your normal purchaser. We very rarely deal with, for instance, first time buyers. There are upsizers, there are downsizers. We deal with a lot of cash or equity rich individuals, so not so much in our world. That doesn't mean I don't interact with estate agents on a daily basis. Believe it or not, I'm friends with loads of them, and yeah, anecdotally there's a bit of that, but actually the truth is that headline that you've just talked about, people coming off fixed rate mortgages are going to be in trouble, that's just a headline, a clickbait headline that the media are using. When it actually translates out, that hasn't, the market hasn't been swamped with these people as predicted. I think we're just living in a really extraordinarily confusing time, and we can get too sucked into supposedly what's going on around us. I mean, you could argue that this that we're doing right now it feeds that, because it's more confusion. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, by the way. I think this is really important stuff. But if you just jump on the trade press, you've got the Halifax and Nationwide house price index is saying different things. One says prices are on the up, one says prices are coming down. Last week, you've got mortgage rates, or you've got interest rates. Interest rates have peaked. They're going to be coming down soon. Today, interest rates are going to hit 5%. It's all anticipation. My view is, and I sound like a miserable old git, just ignore it all and get on with life. Just do what you know works and keep doing it. Run the plays that work. Do what you need to find the right listings, list them, market them appropriately, expose them, get them at the right price, and you will continue to do business. You don't need to worry about the news, because the news is talking about this, as you just said, some nonsense national housing market that doesn't even exist. We all operate in micro markets. Just focus on yours. What's selling in your micro market? Okay, that's where we need to live right now. Let's go make that happen. Let's find those listings. It's so confusing out there, and just focus on what works for you. That's it. Forget everything else. Just do you, and everything will be fine.
Simple. It isn't easy, but it is simple. Right, let's carry back on.
Like so many things in life.
There you go, mate. Right, price changes. So price changes are on 15,000. We're going to have a quick look in a second, looking at how this compares to the going weeks. But again, as you would, it just shows that agents are working their stock. And if you're not working your stock, then either you're putting them on at damn good prices, or you're being lazy with your vendor contact.
But I think, I mean, there's a bit of balance there. I think those that have been on the market for months now are coming to the realization that the media is confusing them. I saw a piece yesterday. It said really late in the process, vendors are now thinking a renege and put the price up because there's positivity in the market. I mean, yeah, it's an education thing. Of course it is. The more contact you have with your consumer, the more honest you are with that feedback, the more you're going to grease the wheels and move things through. I don't regard that necessarily as difficult conversations. I regard that as necessary conversations. For some, it's difficult. But if you embrace those difficult conversations, you will exceed, because do things that others are not willing to, and that's how you win. But yeah, interesting price drops. That's good news, I think.
Good stuff. That's the average price of a property selling. Let's move on and talk about sale agreed. We're going to go a bit more deep when we look at the spreadsheet in a second. So gross sales this week, 19,000. Again, we're looking in isolation, ignoring 20, 21 and 22 because they were exceptional years. It obviously shows that the number of sales this week is lower than 17, 18 and 19. But again, Easter, and we're going to come and show you what the effect of Easter in a second. The average price of a property selling, 355. And again, we're going to look at that in a second. So we'll just pull that. I'll just pull that up. The average
That's very interesting. This week, so we're seeing, property prices, we are selling the more expensive stock, right? Is that what I'm looking at here?
Well, okay. So the average price of a property coming on the market this week was 437, and the average price of a property coming on market in the last 8 weeks has been 425.
Okay.
The average price of a property selling this week, so this is the asking price of when it went sold. So we don't know what it sold for, but we'll assume it sold pretty close to the asking price because that's how it works. 355,000 this week, and the average over the last 8 weeks has been 356.
Now,
so
last time I was on, Chris, I had time to look at the data in advance, and that data in isolation makes it sound like we're listing high and we're not selling high. But actually, if you look at the data for 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, every year The listing price is there and the sales price is there. It's no different this year than any other. We're not listing higher price properties. It's just there's a lot more volume at the lower end of the market than the higher end of the market. And that's why it looks distorted. This is exactly what the market does each year or each week even.
Well, let me show you this. I was going to show this at the end, but I'm going to go and have a quick look at it now. So just have a look. We just whiz down to the bottom. The bottom line is this, boys and girls, is that the higher priced properties have a lower propensity to sell. Okay. So therefore, if you are selling a property that is probably around the 200, 250,000 pound mark, the chances of it selling, I'm just going to pick a figure, are probably somewhere in the order of around 65 to 75%. Okay. The average in the UK is 65. Okay. But if you go up to over 1 million, the chances of you actually moving are probably closer to 50%. Okay. Also, where you are in the country also affects that. So in London, you have about a 55% chance of moving if you put your house on the market. But again, outside London, it's going to be nearer 65 to 70. And as you go out, the numbers get bigger. Okay. So therefore, when we're looking at the UK stats, you know, and again, as Ben says, there isn't no such thing as a market. But what we've got here on this particular graph is this. We've looked at all of the UK listings, which is the blue one, the blue line, and sectioned them up into price range. And then we've looked at all the sales that have taken place in Q1 and again, chopped them up. And as you can quite clearly see, that if the orange line is bigger than the blue line, it means that there more of them are selling. And then, you know, look at the £1 million mark. You know, 3.6% of the houses that come on the market are over $1 million to 2 million, but only 2.6% of them have sold. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of does. Absolutely. As you can see, the demand outstrips supply below £300,000, and it's you know, between 300 and 500, you'd be reasonably happy with that. But once you get above 500, you start to see declines. That I think absolutely supports that. Expect the average sale price versus the average listing price to be lower, and that's not concerning data. I mean, I hadn't even given this any consideration until coming on this and doing this with you. But looking at details, looking at data in more detail, that's just how the market works, and that's okay.
I mean, what is particularly interesting is that different agents have a greater propensity or lower propensity to actually sell. There are some agents. No, I'm not. I kid you not.
Of course they do. I mean, what, you know, if you look outside and look at the sky, there's a sun there as well. You know, if we're just, of course, some agents are brilliant at getting stuff sold, and some agents aren't. And that's in, I guess that's every sport in the world. There are people that are brilliant at sport, people are bad at sport. And you know, there are great restaurants, there are bad restaurants.
I mean, to give you an idea, okay, now I'm not going to mention names of agents, but this is inner London. So that's basically, you know, SW, W postcodes, N postcodes, NW postcodes, E postcodes, SE postcodes, and SW and W, okay? So in the last year, the number one agent by listings, okay, so if we're putting the top 5 agents by the total houses they put on the market, the first agent, for every 100 houses that they put on the market, they will get 27.8% of those moved. Okay. The second agent by listings number, for every 100 houses they put on the market, they will get 56.4% of houses moved. The third agent, for every 100 houses they put on the market, 30.2 houses. Number 4, 42.6% of houses will move. Finally, number 5, 55.7. So at the top of the game and the top 5 estate agents, the best in the top 5, you've got a 55.7% chance of moving. And the worst estate agent, you've got a 27.8% chance of moving. I mean, that's shocking.
Well, unfortunately, Christopher, estate agency is regarded as a shocking industry for service. And to deny that is nothing short of naive. Whether people watching this, and I would imagine the vast majority of people watching this actually are probably the agents that do a good job because they care enough to watch a detailed show with 2 handsome devils like us presenting. But the people that aren't watching this, the people that don't care, the people that are all about volume, and I'm not saying we're not about volume. We believe we need a market share to exist in our local market. In London, without market share, you don't exist. If you don't exist, you don't get the phone calls. So there is a requirement for a certain amount of market share depending on your commercial operation. But the top 5, don't get me wrong, we call it the away rate. So if number 1's away rate is 27%, that's crap. I mean, it's awful. It's useless. It's what the consumer expects them to deliver. But they are the number 1 for listings. So whilst, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they'd love to improve it. From a commercial perspective, they're probably running a pretty nice little business.
They are running
that's where I think you've got problems with this industry, that the commercials don't relate necessarily to the quality of service. Without naming names, there are agent after agent after agent that they are performing exceptionally well on the books, in their commercials, in their P&L, in their balance sheet. But on the ground, the service level, the delivery, the ability to get the job done. But actually, it's not just get the job done. It's everything from listing to getting the job done, the touch point, the interactions, the quality of service, the marketing strategy, the exposure, that everything like that is completely lacking. And that's why this number's so low. And yet, arguably, they're running the strongest commercial businesses. And I think that's a real problem we've got with this industry. I don't have a solution for it, because it's not just to say the big guys are bad. There are individual operators out there who are doing a horrendous job. There are individual operators doing a fantastic job, and there are big boys doing a fantastic job. So there's no quick fix here. But I think it's important that people don't get on their high horse when the consumer has a negative opinion of us, because there's a lot of negativity, a lot of poor performance out there.
Absolutely fantastic. Let's get back to the stats. Right then. Okay. So let's just bring it back. There we go. So the average, no, we've done new instructions. We'll carry on, Watkin. Right. So sale agreed at 355. We've done that. Gross sales accumulative to date, 316,000. And again, I think, we're slightly behind the curve, but we've always been slightly behind the curve. I'm going to come on and talk about where we are in a second net-wise.
Don't forget though, so this week, so we're in Easter earlier than the other years, 17, 18, 19.
Let's bring that. There you go. So again, apologies for the tags there. I didn't spot them when I did the graphs. So again, pink is 23, orange is 19, blue is 18, and yellow is 17.
So we're running similar to blue. Yellow had their dip a little bit later on. Orange a more subtle dip, but irrespective, yeah, it's an Easter dip, and so I think sales agreed next week will be right back up there. And actually, if you that other graph that shows the accumulative, don't forget the first 4 weeks of this year were extraordinarily challenging versus 17, 18, 19, because we were still living off the hangover of Kwarteng and
Well, it's definitely, I mean, okay, apart from the Easter dip, the gap between year-to-date figures on net sales was closing, 23 versus 17, 18 and 19. She's gone back, but again, she should catch back up because in 17, 18, 19, so as you can see, Easter is there. Again, it all depends what happens next week. And again, I think what we've got to take into account is this. There are so many bank holidays this month.
Oh, don't get me started.
Okay.
Oh my, they're coming out of our ears. We love a bank holiday in this country. Any excuse to not get on with some work, it's driving me around the bend.
But honestly, that I do genuinely believe that the numbers are going to be a little bit curtailed simply because of that. I mean, as I do my sober chats on a Monday, and I'm like blank for the next 6 weeks or something, bar one.
Okay. Yeah, it's God, I do love a good coronation. I mean, I don't come around very often, so I'll let him have his day.
Good stuff. Right, number of sales falling through at 5299 is the 7-year average, not for week 15, but for the whole 7 years. And it just shows that Sale Fall Thrus. And again, we're going to come on and look at this in a second when we dive into the national stats a bit more. We've got the fall throughs again, 2020. Obviously, there's a lot of fall throughs because of COVID going into lockdown. Again, 24.28%. Again, just jump in here if you've got anything you've want to add.
I mean, it's if you take away 2020, what's the average? We've got between 16 and 20, so the average is 18. We're marginally above the average. This is no news is good news, I think.
And then price changes at as percentage of listings, again, few ex-corporate bosses like this particular stats. It shows that you're working your stock compared to what's coming on the market. So again, a lot of. So let's actually go and nail down some stats. Can you see that stat in front of you?
I can see that stat in front of me. Let's get you out of the way. Okay, what we got? Let's have a look.
Right, so you can quite clearly see that you've got week 14. So green is good and red is not so good. Okay, so in the last 2 weeks, so this week we're at 27. So let's start off with new instructions. 27,677. Now, the average for the last 8 weeks pre-Easter was 33,617 compared to the average of 29,912, which is a little bit of a drop. But again, I would expect that because it's Easter. I mean, it's amazing the amount of people are on holiday. And again, if people are on holiday, they're not putting their houses on the market. I'm sure you being in West London, you all went down to the South Coast because that's what you posh people do in West London.
Well, that is in 40 years. Yeah, someone's called me posh. I'll take that. No. Enough of these holidays. Get on with doing some work. There's plenty of business out there to be done.
Okay. No, I'm not giving an excuse. It's a reason.
No, it's an excuse. Stop kidding yourself that reasons and excuses are not the same thing. Why didn't you hit target this month? Well, yeah, there were some bank holidays. Yeah. Somebody hit target with those bank holidays. Excuses. No excuses. Just get it done. Stop. What we're so good at. What can I find? I can always find.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's a great excuse. Let's move on to price reductions. We're up 15,514. The average for the last 2 weeks is 16,000 compared to a 8-week average before when people were at work and not on holiday of 18,380.
So what's the solution to this, right? People go away at this time of year and you need to get ahead of the curve. Maybe you want the price reduction. Maybe you wanted it last week, but you knew they weren't going to answer the phone because they were away. How could you have handled that? Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, look, we've been on the market 8 weeks. We've been on the market 12 weeks. We've been on the market 16 weeks. Whatever it is, we've tried multiple strategies. We've done all the different marketing tools that I've suggested, and you've been fantastic. You've come along on the journey, but we are now at the point where we've done X amount of viewings and there's only one thing left to do. We need a new pricing strategy. My view is if it doesn't go well for us in the next 10 days, let's do it. Well, we're going to be away in the next 10 days. That's okay. Give me authorization on your behalf to make this decision. I work in your best interest. There is no excuse for not getting the price reduction in the last 2 weeks when people are away. If you're not planning ahead, yeah, fine. But that's on you. That's not on the consumer. That's not on people being away. It's on you that you haven't planned ahead, that you're not going to be able to contact people. Take personal responsibility. That is the key to success. You are responsible for it. Go get it done. That's it.
You are on your soapbox today, mate.
Yeah, I've had I've had a very intense workout this morning. I'm full of beans. I'm ready to go. I've heard a few excuses over the last couple of weeks. It's time to dry your eyes and get on with it.
I mean, what, mate? I bet you're an interesting boss. You crack the whip. You also, I know you're a good boss as well. So let's not. Sorry, we're not allowed to call them bosses anymore, are we? Right. Okay. Source up the contracts. Now, again, this is where. Come on, Doommongers, bring it in. Come on, bring us into the fold here. Here we go. Doommongers average sales per week the last 2 weeks 20,247 compared to the average of 23,245.
People on holiday. Yeah, sure. I get it.
Okay.
This week, so you're going to get to London in a minute, aren't you? But we saw a spike. Properties priced above £1 million in London, new to market last week, jumped 55%.
I have done some stats on the percentage difference split down by region, and we're going to get to the regions in a second.
Okay.
Fall Thrus, again, 4,910 this week. Sorry, 4,460 for the average for the last 4 weeks. 2 weeks compared to 4,900. And the percentage, because again, it's all about percentages. Fall Thrus this week, 22% compared to the Q1 of 21.7. So again, that's a big one. That's a big tell. Of if the market is not doing very well, sales fall through. Let's go back to where they were in Q4. Average fall throughs 39 or 37%. So again,
but hold on. So sales, new listings are down, sales agreed are down, and we're saying that's because of Easter. Fall throughs are down. We're saying that's because of the market. It's all either Easter related or it's all market related. So I'm pretty sure Unfortunately, for some people, they're going to get a call in the next week or two, and they're going to be told we've changed our mind about the deal we've put together because we've been away for 2 weeks. It's been Easter, we've had that time with our family, and we've decided that we're going to wait until prices bottom out, or we're going to wait until mortgage rates come down. I mean, don't get me wrong, go into battle. That's a fight you want to have because, the dreamers about looking for the perfect scenario for when to buy, go toe to toe with them and pull that deal together. But I think fall throughs are probably down, aborted deals are probably down because people are on holiday. But I would say, though, this year, I think the abortive rate at the moment is running at a very, very positive position.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with losing. I mean, I like to hold together every deal, but losing 1 in 5, I can live with that, actually. Painful as it may be. If
it's a downside better than the late 30s
absolutely
when Q4.
yeah.
And again, that's where a lot of estate agents are finding it tough at the moment because the fall throughs in Q4 have hit their pipelines of what they'd be earning now in Q1 or just going into Q2. So I really do feel for you guys. Right. Okay. Let's go back and look at the stats on regionally based. So we're going to fly through these, not particularly quickly. Particularly quickly. Green is good, red is bad. Again, I think the important thing is I've just done some rough stats on how the sales that have reduced in Easter week. So East Midlands, we're presently at 91% of sale agreeds compared to the 2 months before. So 91 is one of the best in the country. Again, just shout up. I mean, again, these are all available to download. Why is it not?
Sorry, Chris. What's at 91%? Say that again.
The East Midlands.
But no, sorry, what stat?
The number of sales in the last 2 weeks, weekly sales compared to the 2 months before.
Okay, so they're running at 91%. Sorry.
So
the sales are down the last 2 weeks versus the last 2 months, but we're attributing that to Easter, and they're running at 91%, even though it's Easter.
Yes.
So that is good. Okay,
yes, so they're running at 91%. But it's interesting is that different parts of the country are running at different rates. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Interesting. So East of England, I haven't done the stat on that one. My apologies to those guys in Norfolk and Suffolk. Inner London, now this is a stat running at 81.7%. Inner London, again, N postcode, NW postcode, E postcode, SE, SWW, and the centre.
Yeah, I mean, we would say, so we had a crazy period to speak really specifically about our business. Maybe it provides a little bit of context, or it's really boring, one or the other. About 4 weeks ago, we had this 2.5 week period where I don't think we've ever had so many offers coming into the business in that time frame. And looking back and picking it apart, did something happen in the news? Did the world change? Was it people were going away for Easter? Let's get something done before Easter. Sometimes it just happens, but I haven't been able to find what it was, because if I could find what it was, we'd be replicating it. But that data you're talking about aligns completely with what we saw for a period. We've seen instructions coming to the market increase in the last week versus the previous 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think I think it's going to be an interesting next month to 2 months. What's that term? The litmus test as to whether the market is where we need it to be or want it to be. But the data we're looking at right now, me and you got a little bit picked apart on social media by someone I don't know about being data obsessives and tell stories. This data, I mean, it's great. It's wonderful. I love it. It's good for the coffee table because people do want to know what's going on around the world. In their world, this fuels a conversation, but it's not the story you tell. I hope people aren't using this data to determine how well the rest of the year is going to perform, and they're making their own year. Cliche, you make your own market. Who comes up with this stuff? But the fact is, you want to do well, you need the listings. You want the listings, you just got to do the work. That's all it is.
Oh, right. Hold on. Let's go back. Oh, hold on. Stop share. I've got too many windows open. Right, here we go. Okay. We now move on to the Northeast. Northeast are running at 84.3%, the Northwest at 89%.
It's pretty good. It's
okay. Yeah.
You take 9 out of 10 sales.
Yeah, that's fine. 8. But again, it's in it quite. I mean, the only one that sticks out like a sore thumb is London, but London always is a weird one. Again, these are all available to download, and you can judge your performance against your region's performance. Again, green is good, red is bad. Outer London is running at 82.4% of sales, and Scotland is running at 91.9. I've always found it fascinating that everything's quite tight, even though we'd say that there is not one market. Everything seems to move up and down at the same rate.
Well, because let's remind ourselves, the market is determined by consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment is driven by mass market media. Mass market media is reaching everyone with headlines on the internet, on your app, in your newspaper. So they still fuel the market. What's happening in politics, what's happening in the media still determines how people feel about buying and selling. So it should have the same impact up and down the market. I just think to talk about national averages around sort of property stock is crazy. But you can certainly, I think, talk about national averages when it comes to consumer sentiment. That's, you're talking about behavioral economists and how they determine whether we're going to have a great year or a bad year. They're looking at consumer sentiment and thinking about how they're going to react to things that are going on in the economy and political climate.
I find it fascinating that there's supposed to be a recession, but have you tried to get into a restaurant or the coffee shop?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard. So Ian was on recently, and he was at the same conference that I was, the Fine and Country conference, and the economist we had on stage said that actually what we need is a bit of medicine right now. The sooner we get the medicine, the less of it we're going to need. The longer it takes for us to reach this recession, the tougher the recovery will be. But we can't get ourselves into a recession because everyone's in a nice restaurant. Everyone's spending. No one's pulling it in. So GDP and inflation is still an issue. And until that's addressed, until we stop spending, we won't hit the recession. If we don't hit the recession, at some point down the line, life's going to get really, really tough. So don't get me wrong. I can't make the argument for let's get into a recession because we know what that does to consumer sentiment, and that might slow things down as well. So, I'm being selfish in that respect, but I'm being very honest with my wife and saying no more nice dinners. Let's stay at home. This is I've just into a fantastic economist. We're not going out anymore. This is exactly what I needed to hear. This is what I needed in the Madden household. No more spending money. Let's be sensible out there. I don't know now. I don't know if maybe I've lost touch. Does the average Joe, does Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, are they worried about the future? They're not worried. Are we getting a polarization of how people feel about the market? I mean, there's so much activity right now that it's hard to argue that people are that worried about the future right now.
Well, but then we went through COVID, and that was at almost end of the world. And if you look back at the previous recession, certain things went up in, people were having little luxuries. So they weren't buying the big car, or they weren't going to you'd be amazed out there what if you go for a holiday booking in one of the traditional areas, where it's like £1,000-2,000 a week. There's a lot of availability out there. So probably people, instead of spending £2,000 going to Suffolk, are probably spending £100 going out for a meal.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? I don't know. If we knew,
it's difficult. Yeah,
right.
I mean, don't forget, people have still got, there's statistics to support that people have got still got more savings than they used to having pre-COVID because of COVID. COVID, in essence, forced people to leave money in their bank account. The last couple of years, they've been desperate to spend it, but there's still an argument and there's still statistics to support that bank accounts have got money in them and people are desperate to spend it instead of holding on to it. So, but you're right, it's maybe not as much in the bank account, so we're not going to have the big holiday, but yeah, we can certainly go out for dinner every other week. So yeah, it's interesting out there, but that's the market we find ourselves in. That's it's a good thing. There's positivity around. Take advantage of that. Use that to your benefit as an estate agent.
Just some numbers. Wales is on 86, West Midlands is on 83, and Yorkshire is on 92. We don't normally spend a lot of time on these. These are available to download to see where you are in terms of gross sales against listings, sales that fall through. Again, green is good, red is bad. Again, just download them, have a look at them, boys and girls, and they'll all be there available for you. I think this is cumulative year to date in terms of listings, gross sales, and lettings. Again, notice that in the net sales line in week 15, she's easing off a bit simply because 2020 is coming in with the sales as well. Again, I suspect that we're going to see red all the way through simply because 23 slightly behind, is going to be obviously behind 2021 and 22. and 19 and 18 and 17. Although if we can get Easter, we were catching up. So who knows? We might pass. Who knows?
I think we'll surpass. I think we will.
Okay, good stuff. Right, let's move on to the last part of the element of the show, where we go and focus on a town or city. And what I'd like us to do is I'm going to give you a picture, and I want you to have a guess on the place that we're going. Is that okay?
That is okay. Yeah.
Right, then here we go. Hold on a second. There we go. And you should be able to see a picture. Okay, so I must stress to you that we're not going to the Nakatomi Tower. So, okay.
Classic. Okay. Yeah, that is he. I mean, he's played some great roles, but you're right. It might be his best role. Yeah, he was exceptional.
Great film.
Yeah, classic.
Absolutely. Okay, we are going to Nottingham.
Hey, this will like right. Think about this. Morgan Freeman in that film, has he aged? No. Morgan Freeman back then looked, what's that movie's got to be 30 years old?
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman looked old 30 years ago. He looks the same old now. What's going on? Something's not quite right there. Morgan Freeman is maybe a vampire. I'm not sure.
There you go. Well, only time will tell on that one. Do like this. Right. Okay, so we're going to Nottingham, okay, boys and girls. So this is of interest to people in Nottingham. I must stress to you that all the stats have come from, wait for it, give me a drum roll, please. Go on. All the stats have come from the 20EA Insight platform, which provides stats for me. This is the national platform. This is available free of charge to you. If you go to 20EA and go to Insights and go there, you can have up to 3 postcodes free of charge. After that, you do pay a little bit of money. I
didn't know that. So sorry, since when you can get 3 postcodes for free? When did that come into existence?
If it's there, I just spotted it the other day. Like I say, I don't get paid. I don't get paid. I just
genuinely, I think we have to have a commercial discussion because I still haven't received my check from the first issue edition overview. But I think 20EA should be sponsoring the show. They should be throwing some shekels in. You're a media operation, and you could be.
No, but damn well, mate. I do not take kickbacks from anyone.
Then they can donate that money to charity. They should be. They're getting fantastic coverage every week. Let's get some shekels out of these guys.
That's not the Chris Watkin way. Okay, and we don't take kickbacks. We just, other data providers are available, and we do use other data, but this is the best data that we're available at the moment. So what we're doing today is this. So just you just jump in. We're going to do mainly residential sales, and we are going to be looking at the postcodes of NG1. We're not doing NG2 because that's West Bridgford, which is called Bread and Lard Island, because it looks like and it's called Bread and Lard. It's like the posh bit. Okay, so what's the posh bit of West London?
Chiswick. I'm sitting in it.
Okay, then. So like Chiswick looks like an island mostly because it has the loop going round.
Right.
Okay. Well, in West Bridgford, the Trent goes round West Bridgford, and it's called Bread and Lard Island because in the old days, the old people used to buy dripping to dip their bread in. Right. For food, but because the houses were so expensive, they couldn't afford dripping. They could only afford lard, so it's called Bread and Lard Island. And everyone else in the poor areas had decent dripping. There you go. And ask your grannies and your great grannies what dripping was. People used to buy lumps of fat, melt it down, and dip their butter in, dip their bread in it. But
isn't there a lesson to be learned there? In the old days, people would sacrifice dripping and have lard so they could have a nicer property.
Yeah.
Are you willing to sacrifice something right now so that you can get on the housing ladder or have a nice property? What is it? What was on that film? Cancel your Netflix subscription and you'll be a homeowner in no time. Obviously.
The other one was called Kippers and Curtains, because they couldn't afford kippers. They spent all their money on the curtains to look good.
And I get it. Curtains are important in a house. Yeah, absolutely.
Right then. Okay, so this is NG1, not NG2 because it's West Bridgford. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is basically core Nottingham, excluding West Bridgford. Okay, And we're firstly looking at stock levels, which again is an important thing. And we can quite clearly see here that these two big daddy-o estate agents, which is Holden Copley and David James. So let's just have a quick look at Holden. So the average price in the last 2.5 years, because this is from the 1st of the 1st 21 through to the 19th of April. So the average price is 228. Let's remember that one then, because then we can see where if they're upper quartile, lower quartile. Okay, so Holden Copley coming in. Oh, right. So they're at 223. So therefore, they're obviously a middle of the road estate agent. They've put on 2,580, but you can quite clearly see their stock of properties has been going down. Quite interesting. Yeah. Don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
Ours is not to
Are
judge.
Who are Holden Copley? Do you know anything about them? Are they a corporate, independent? How many branches?
They are an independent, and they really have come from nowhere in the last 5. I can't remember. It's not. They weren't around 10 years ago, and they really have come on really strong. Okay. I did put a phone call into them yesterday just to find out a bit more, but they couldn't be bothered to come back to me. But I'm sure they were so busy that they come back to me. I'm sure they are a firm. I have heard good things about them. Okay, let's go look at David James. Okay, and it appears that their market share has steadily been growing. Obviously, had that little spike there. They're at 238.
Pretty average goalkeeper though.
Okay. William H. Brown 172. So again, they tend to be. They might be more in the north end of Nottingham, which again the house prices are a little bit cheaper, more inexpensive. And they're at 172. Hart, which are going to be a corporate estate agent, they're pretty level in terms of their number of properties. Purple Bricks, again, looks like their stock levels have been slightly dropping, but again, I would expect that because that's what's happening in the rest of the UK. FHP Living, they tend to deal more with the posh end in Nottingham.
What's the FHP stand for?
Freeman, Hardy, and Willis. No, I do know it, but I can't remember. On the spot. Franklin is a part of the Countrywide, which is obviously part of Connell's. Bairstow Eves. Marriott's are a good estate agent in local independent. They seem to be growing, and Robert Ellis there. We'll just have a quick look at the sales just to see if that makes any difference. So again, let's go Holden Copley. Again, that's been pretty static. I mean, it's been up and down. David James, again.
What's interesting, though, is the market share increases in sales certainly for the top three. Their market share of listings versus their market share of sales. So they list well, but they sell at a higher proportion than their competitors.
Okay, so let's now move on and look at my favorite screen, and that is how efficient the estate agent is. Okay, we've done this screen many times, and interestingly here that in Nottingham, 9.6% of the houses that come onto the market in the last 12 months have been with online estate agents compared to the national average of 5.7. Okay, when we were in Oxford, it was the complete other way around. It was a really low number. So
I find it so funny though that of all the data we could be looking at that 20 EA have decided is important, online agents have got their own little piece to the left.
Yeah, because estate agents are obsessed about purple bricks.
I don't know if they are anymore. I think people have moved on. I think the current obsession is the self-employed agent. The online was one thing, and now the current obsession is self-employed, and you've got the extremes of, you've got certain brands that are just obsessive about pushing their brand out there, and the individuals that do well from growing that network. And then you've got the guys on the other side of the fence that don't believe in that model in any way whatsoever. And I think that's the new argument.
Okay, good stuff. Well, we could probably look at that another time. Bottom right-hand corner shows you the growth of listings in the last 12 months, which I think is quite interesting, that Marriott's and FHP are growing, and the big boys, which is David James and Holden Copley, have dropped. But again, we saw that in the previous with the amount of stock. But let us go and have a look at my favorite bit, which is this is the problem with the 20 EA platform, is that it's a bit of a geek fest, which is great for you and me. But for estate agents, it is quite hard work to spot the gold amongst the dirt. Okay. And it quite simply is this: as Brian Mansell said last week, if you put a house on the market, it's not marketing a home, it's getting a house moved. You're house moving. You're getting people moved. And it's this graph here, it's this bit here that, as you know, and we keep banging on about it like a drum. I do apologize. No, I'm not going to apologize. Is for every 100 houses, for every house that you put on the market, it's either going to leave your agency, either being exchanged or withdrawn. You'd agree with that premise, yes?
I certainly would.
And therefore, for every 100 houses that Holden Copley put on the market, they will exchange contracts, or in essence, we're assuming the exchange is completion because it's 99.999% certain. That means they're going to exchange, they're going to move 80.4. So what I've done here is this, in true Watkins style, is I've actually put this into a graph. How about that?
Show it to us.
I'm telling you, mate.
Stop toying with us and show us it.
Hold on, patience, my impatient one. This is gold. Okay, here we go.
This is gold. I love the confidence. This is gold.
So I don't know how much you can see of that. I'm gonna zero in on that graph until you say it's not.
It's reasonable, but then I'm on a laptop, so yeah. If anyone's watching this on their mobile phone, good luck.
Right. So you should be able to see a graph of blue and pink lines.
We certainly can.
Right then, so this is data from 20CI, and what they do is they look at everything that's left your books in the last 12 months, and if it's if it's either with, I know there's a slight delay to allow for the land registry, but if it appears on the land registry, you've obviously exchanged on it, and if it doesn't appear on the land registry after 3 months, then obviously it's been withdrawn. Okay, that's the way it works, I believe. And here we go from left to right. We have put it in the order of listing numbers. Okay, so Holden Copley are the biggest agent for listings, then David James, and then all the way through. And I think we have done the top 30 here. So these are the top 30 estate agents in NG 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, and as you can quite clearly see, Holden and Copley are at 80.4, David James at 86, William H. Brown at 64, Hart at 62. Okay, so you can oh, sorry, let's go back there one. Hold on. You might
so we got in the top 5, we got the 2 independents.
Yes.
Great for volume, great for exchange rate.
Yeah.
The next 2 are corporates.
Next
great
3
for
are
volume.
corporates.
Next 2 are corporates. Great for volume, but not great for exchange rate. And then Purple Bricks, I think, for me, sits in this weird world. So I'll agree with you that they would present themselves as a corporate, but the operators are individual independents. For me, they just, and look at that. What a fantastic away rate. That's good for them. And yeah, they spotted that one too. Yeah, Yopen, not so much in terms of volume and listings, but their success rate, phenomenal.
I mean, if you actually look at this and look at, would you consider that Purple Bricks, Strike, and Yopa are online estate agents?
Honestly, I've just sort of moved away from that language. They're not traditional high street. Yeah, sure, they don't have commercial premises. We're having a lot of conversations in our own business right now, actually, around commercial premises, and we love them. I'm very traditional. I love the high street. I like to see independent traders on the high street. But the facts remain that commercial rents and business rates are ridiculously high. And so does that make for a really great business model to be there? Because we don't think we have more than a couple of people walk into our business on a monthly basis to talk shop. They want directions. In our business, because we don't present it necessarily as your sort of stereotypical estate agency office, we get things like, oh, are you a furniture shop? Or what do you guys do? So I don't necessarily go over this online, offline. I much more lean towards independent versus corporate, or in the case of, for me, Purple Bricks, Yopa, and honestly, I don't know enough about Strike to give commentary, but when you have someone who's got skin in the game and they have to make it work for themselves, this data for me supports that model does work.
Should we keep Purple Bricks, Strike, and Yopa as yellows, or would you put them back to pink? What would you say?
So, why were they pink originally? What's pink?
Well, because they were
corporate versus independent.
They were corporate versus independent.
Okay.
What do you think we should do?
So you move as well would be independent, far right.
Yes, I put in because because that's a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at yeah, I think there's three categories now. You've got corporates, you've got independents, and then you've got businesses that operate as self-employed. And so yeah, I think Purple Brick, Strike, Yopa, and Yumu.
No,
Yumu, they
again,
have
no, I'm
physical.
sorry, because I would say you move and the likes of Northwards, they are independents. They just trade under a brand name.
Sorry, again, I don't want to be ignorant here. What I know of Umove is purely what I read in the trade press. And so actually, Umove is more like a franchise operation, is it?
You move is a franchise.
Okay, okay, yeah, sorry. So yeah, my bad there. But the self-employed operation, I think, is there are serious positives to that model. So look, cards on the table. We've got an employed team in our core business. We have business partners in secondary businesses, and we have self-employed operators also within our business. So we have every structure. And I'm not saying one is what am I saying? Yeah, I mean, that data supports that the people that have skin in the game do that a little bit more. When you're an individual operator, there's less wastage allowed. When you're an independent business, there's some wastage. When you're a corporate, there's so little accountability for the wastage. And I think that's what we need to look at. At scale, corporates can live with wastage. Independents, they don't like wastage, but they can live with a bit because they're a slightly bigger business. When you're out there on your own.
Yeah, but is that right for the client? When if you look here, you know, in terms of this, is that if I went on the market with Heart, for example, great brand, great management structure, I have a 62% chance of selling. But if I go on with David James, I have an 86% chance of selling, which at the end of the day is what estate agency is about.
Well, all right, let me phrase it another way. You go to a restaurant and you can go to, no, in fact, let's use hotels. You can go to a 5-star hotel, a 4-star hotel, and a 3-star hotel. The experience will be very different. As such, I hope so will the pricing model. And so my argument here would be David James should be able to dictate a stronger fee because they probably do some really fantastic stuff to ensure their 86% exchange rate, but they also are able to guarantee a higher rate of success. So they simply need to be a more expensive product. There will always be, in every market, there will be a selection of solutions based on quality, based on value, based on price. So that's what we're looking at here. Don't get me wrong, William H. Brown and Hart, their listing levels are astonishing. Is that because they are doing cut rate deals? Holden Copley and David James, I really hope they're sitting at 2.5% because they deserve it based on the volume instructions and their success rate. Purple Bricks, different model, different pricing structure, but their success rate is 88%. It's absolutely fantastic. Any agent in London would rip your arm off for that. So they should, you know, I think it comes down to price, service and price for me are intrinsically aligned, and that's how you assess value. Your question, is it right for the consumer? You're never going to have everyone who's 100% successful. You just can't. It's not possible for everyone to be. No, I mean, looking at this data, nobody's 100% successful. The argument here is Holden Copley are fantastic, but 1 in 5 consumers leaves unhappy because they're not selling that 1 in 5. So there's no perfect solution, is there?
No, but Heart are what, 4 in 10?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's not a criticism of Heart. Great brand, great people, but just, you know, again, that's something that we could probably carry on a discussion at the next Fine & Country conference over a glass of refreshing.
We can, as long as you stop saying there's no criticism of Heart. Don't worry about criticism. We're allowed to have opinion, and people are allowed to be offended.
I don't know, because I have no criticism of Heart.
Yeah, but don't worry, because you're only talking about their data. You don't need to back it up with no criticism of Heart.
Okay, I'm just a nice Ben. I'm just a nice person. Okay,
you are a nice person. I'll give you that.
Okay, so this next screen, which again is available on the Insights platform, what they do is they look at every single one of your properties that you put on the market and attribute an automated valuation model, which is a posh word for a PayPal, not PayPal, a Valpal figure. Okay, and then they actually then look at what you actually sold it for. So you put 100 houses on the market. They took the average of what it came on the market for versus what he thinks it was worth, and then saw what it sold for. And hey presto, we could spend hours on this. We're running out of time, but fundamentally, if every Nottingham agent put a £250,000 house on, Holden Copley would sell it for 264, David James at 259, William H. Brown 261. and Hart at 257. So again, there, if you were William H. Brown, whilst you had a lower number of getting them sold, you would actually get a slightly better price. Holden Copley, look, they were number one for listings. Their exchange rate was really good, and they get an average of slightly higher of 3,844 than the Nottingham average. So
no wonder no wonder they didn't take your call yesterday. They're too busy doing business.
Too busy. They can't speak with the Watkin. There you go. So again, just have a look at this data. As I said, let's move on and see how the agents in Nottingham are faring in terms of actually getting the property sold. So if you actually look, NI is new instruction to sole subject to contract and sole subject to contract to completion. And you quite clearly see that Robert, and then they'll add the two together. So if you put your house on the market with Robert Ellis, you would be moving 156 days later, all the way up to David J. Holden's at 176 and Bairstow Eves at 218. So again, if I was going up against Bairstow Eves, great estate agent. Sorry.
Oh my God, we got to get a bell. I ring every time we do that.
Okay, well, you normally take the piss on me because I'm a bit of a 20 EA fan. Which
you're 20 E fan, you're an estate agent fan. You just too nice a guy. It's a good thing I'm here to be the thorn in your side.
You've got that's why I asked you to do, because at the end of the day, it'd just be sickly and nice and bunny rabbits.
No.
Okay, so again, if you're dealing with a client who wants to move quickly, then using this data works you really well. It shows you how well you're not only you selling a house, but how quickly your sales progression is doing, because there's a huge difference here between 116 and 145 days.
There is,
and that's a month.
Yeah.
And then,
well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Bairstow Eves versus Robert Ellis, 156 versus 218. That's an outrageous jump. What's this? It's more than the 50. That's more than a third jump. That's a big difference. But then, are Bairstow Eves even in the race when you look at pricing achieved and success rate? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if Bairstow Eves are a franchise in Nottingham or not. They were 20 years ago, but they might have been bought back. I'm not 100% sure. Right. Okay. Let's move on and look at rentals. Okay. Now, again, the Nottingham market is very skewed by the student market, hence why you can see the October-November jump here. Open rent, I've got 8% of the market. Oh, it's died. Do apologise. They've got 8% of the market. I can't go any more from this because she's crashed, which happens because I've had it open too long.
And it's lettings. It's crashed because it's lettings, and everyone's here for sales. This is someone's telling you don't dwell on lettings.
Don't dwell on lettings. I tell you, I will just briefly show you is this graph, which is looking at the upper quartile in
interesting
in Nottingham, and you can quite clearly see that FHP. And so this is, if memory serves well, it's either 650 and above or 750 above. I can't remember. I'm going off memory, and you can quite clearly see FHP do tend to dominate that market, and I've gone NG all the way through to NG17, including West Bridgford, because that's the posh area. And you quite clearly see that FHP now in Nottingham were probably somewhere in the middle of the table in the top 10. Now they're top dogs. Did surprise me there is that Savills they used to be very dominant in Nottingham. They're not particularly flying a go there.
Tell you what, number 6 looks good.
Number 6 is good. Richard Watkinsons are a fantastic estate agent, local independent, great people. Robert Ellis, again, mainly out to the west, but they're obviously coming into the city. Royston Lund are a West Bridgford-based agent, and Holden Copley obviously getting their share, but obviously not as dominant in the posh area. They tend to obviously deal with chimney pots and not posh people. I mean,
yeah, I'll be shouting out my Fine and Country colleagues. 70% SSTC, best on the graph. 67% exchange rate, best on the graph. Lowest withdrawn rate. Good work, guys and girls.
There you go. I thought I'd just give you that. Just thought I'd give you that little prize there. Just for... Okay, right. So we're now going to finish the show now. Any final thoughts on what all these stats told you?
Absolutely nothing. It's just a bit of fun. Don't get obsessed. Don't get sucked in. Don't worry about the data. Holden Copley are smashing it this year. They are caning it. So
I hope their
I can't-
fees rely on. I hope they're not doing that on cheap fees, because they've got great. It's great.
Yeah, they'll absolutely have destroyed everything I've just said over the last 5 minutes. Yeah, look, data is data. Me and you got called out on social media for being obsessed with it. I think it fuels conversation. It provides context. At the end of the day, the consumer doesn't want a historian. They want a behavioral economist. They want to know what the future holds. No one has a crystal ball. All you can do is use this data to build great professions and build great trust, build that rapport, ensure that you are regarded as the oracle. How do you do that? Because I know all this stuff. That allows the consumer to have confidence in you and for you to guide the consumer to being a owner of a sellable home. That's what we're looking for. So that's how I would use it. That's how I would leave it. It's been a lot of fun. I've been a little bit blah, blah, blah. But good stuff.
Ben, you are absolutely awesome. And we will be inviting you back in about a month's time. You're always extremely good value for money. But more importantly, thank you, the viewing public, for watching this, or if it's on podcast, listening to it, although I'm not sure listening to it by bringing up the slides. Again, those slides are downloadable from the description on either YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever provider the podcast is coming on. As I said, the stats are there just to help and guide and support you on your journey in estate agency. I hope that is of use. I look forward to seeing you next week, where we'll be looking at more stats. And thank you for your time and your effort. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the YouTube comments. And if you've got any suggestions on areas that we can look at, we do have a long list of towns that we have got on the list, but more are always required. And please just put them in the list or send me a DM. I'm available on most of the social media platforms, especially Facebook and LinkedIn. Ben, thanks again for your time today. Great to see you, and we'll see you soon. See everyone else soon. See you on.
See you soon.